In this short little video, I'm about to save you a lifetime of unprofitability, blown accounts, and frustration. There are three main things that you must understand to be a profitable trader, and until I implemented these things in my trading, I was just spinning my wheels and losing money. So listen very closely because what I'm about to share with you is extremely important. The first thing that I need to share with you is that to be a successful trader, you need to deeply understand your own behavior and why you're taking the behaviors that you are. For example, if you have a tendency to over-risk, you need to dive deep into the actual reasons why you over-risk, why you over-leverage, and why you over-trade. Because there is a deeply ingrained belief inside of you that doing these kinds of activities is going to generate some positive result. Deep down somewhere, you actually think that, you actually believe that. Because if you didn't believe that over-leveraging would give you more money, then why would you ever over-leverage? No one wants to lose money. No one wants to lose accounts. Everything that you do is because somewhere inside you actually believe that that's going to make you money. So the key is to go inside, start finding these beliefs, start locating these wrong ways of thinking, these errors in your thinking, and then beginning to rewrite these programs into a proper way of thinking about trading to be actually long-term profitable and long-term successful. So, taking the example that we're going with here, if you have a tendency to overtrade, over-leverage, and oversize, then you need to bring out a notebook and write down, I overtrade, over-leverage, and oversize because I think it's going to make me more money and make it quicker than the alternative of actually using good risk management. Now that you've identified the error in your thinking that is leading to your unprofitability, you need to dispel this illusion and rewrite this belief in your brain. So next time you go to oversize, your brain is automatically on board with the belief of, this is not going to make me money. This is not profitable. This is not good. Your brain will actually want to do the right behaviors because you will rewrite your brain to think, if I trade less, I make more money. If I trade with less size, I actually make more money and make it quicker because it's not going to lead to blown out accounts. If you're using funded accounts, that means you're back on a combine. And then you have to spend this time trading, not even making any money, just trying to get back to the funded account level. So by doing these behaviors, you're actually making money a lot slower. Of course, you can have a big boom, but then it'll always come back down into a bust. So to be a successful trader, you need to deeply understand yourself. And the way that you start to find these limiting beliefs and these things that are holding you back is to start to be very aware of how you think, how you see things, to start to be extremely aware of your internal thought processes and the emotions that you're having, not only while you're trading, but just in everyday life. So this is considered mindfulness. And I honestly do believe if you are not being mindful, if you are not practicing meditation and mindfulness as a trader, you're just making your life so much harder than it has to be. Because I honestly don't see how someone can be a long-term successful profitable trader unless they're aware of the kinds of ways they're thinking, unless in the moment of them trading they can notice, wow, I'm starting to get frustrated. Wow, I'm feeling emotional. Because unless you notice this in the moment it's actually happening, you are just going to be like a puppet on the string of your mind. And your mind's going to say, place another trade. It's not that big of a deal. We can make that money back. After you take a loss, your brain starts to freak out. You start to feel emotional. Your cortisol rises. If you're not aware of this in the moment that it's happening, then you just get completely taken over like a rushing river, and you are absolutely screwed. So not only is awareness good for identifying these things that you hold in your mind that are holding you back, like the example of, I think oversizing will give me more money, or I think taking more trades is going to lead to a positive outcome. But you also need to notice in the moment of how you tend to react. Being successful at trading is just a game of deeply understanding yourself and deeply mastering your internal state. And the only way to do this is to understand who you actually are. Because for most people, it can feel like there's two people inside of you. There is the person that wants to be a successful, profitable trader, to never have to work a normal job again and just make money trading for the rest of their life and ride off into the sunset. Then there's the other part of you that is holding all these false beliefs about what you're capable of, what you need to do to make money in trading, your caveman brain that is triggered every single time that you take a loss. So that part of yourself sabotages the part of you that actually wants to be successful. So by becoming aware and knowing that, okay, I am this awareness, I am observing my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions, these beliefs that I hold, and I can choose not to follow every single thought that comes into my head about the next action I need to take. So if that's taking a loss and then saying, I need to jump into a new trade immediately, you curb that as it's actually happening. Then once you recognize that there are these two parts of yourself, you can start to gain clarity on which one you're actually going to listen to and follow, and which one you are going to dismiss as just random noise in your brain that you don't need to pay attention to and that you don't need to follow. So that is incredibly important. I would say the biggest thing that took me from being unprofitable to being profitable is to stop the cycle of doom. Every single trader has experienced the blow up, and it usually happens in one day. It starts off as a bad day where you're feeling slightly emotional. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're sick. Maybe you're just not having a good day in general. You're just not in tune with the market. So what happens is you go in the morning with good intentions and you take that first trade and it ends up being a loss. Let's say it's a $300 loss. Immediately your brain becomes triggered because the human mind does not like taking losses. It is simply a core principle of the human condition that when we take losses, cortisol rises, we think our very survival is being threatened, and the brain becomes in a heightened state of anxiety. In this emotional state, do you think it's a good idea to place another trade? Because usually this is how the spiral begins. It always starts with that one loss. That spirals into 2 losses. That spirals into 3 losses. The next thing you know, you're oversizing. Boom, you've increased your risk. You've thrown stop losses out the window. The only thing that you care about is getting back to that break-even point. And you get into this narrow tunnel vision where you can't even see what's going on in the market anymore. You're not even looking at what's happening. You're just looking at, I need to make my money back. And at this point, you're just a pure gambler. You're just a monkey just pushing buttons, not even knowing what the hell is going on. So one of the biggest pieces of becoming a profitable trader is avoiding this altogether. Because I'm sure you've seen people, they'll have a good few months, and one day can wipe out months of progress. And this is something that you will never build a long-term sustainable income and sustainable business if you always have to worry about an eventual complete meltdown and blow up. Because in that case, none of the money you're actually making is even yours. So when you start to fix your trading behaviors, understand who you really are deep down inside, you can become aware and recognize when you're going into one of these states that's going to lose you money. And then when you can recognize the spiral of doom before it even happens and just simply walk away, that is when you can start turning the corner to becoming a consistently long-term profitable trader. Not someone who makes a little money here and there and then ends up giving it all back. So in essence, what I would recommend is to use your powers of mindfulness, to use that awareness that you've built up, to recognize when you're getting frustrated in the market. The second that you notice you're starting to get frustrated, that you're starting to get emotional, whether that be 1 loss, 2 losses, or even a winning trade that turns into a break-even trade, whatever it is that triggers for you that emotional state of heightened emotions, heightened stress, you need to immediately shut down the computer and walk away, because that is the beginning of the spiral of doom. And I guarantee that if you've been trading for any amount of time, that you've gone through this and you've thought to yourself, wow, if I just walked away on that first loss, how much better off would I have been? If I just walked away before this 4th or 5th trade that I took that ended up blowing out this account, I could have come back the next day refreshed. And that is the big thing, is that I've noticed after I get into a frustrated emotional state, it takes me personally 2 to 3 hours to calm down again after reaching that heightened emotional state. Therefore, the absolute best thing that you could do is simply walk away and come back the next day when you have emotionally reset, you have emotionally recalibrated, your cortisol is back down to normal levels, your heart rate is back down to a normal level, you're able to see things objectively again, and you're not just pressing buttons trying to make your money back and get back to break even, where you throw all of your trading knowledge out the window and you are just an idiot just doing random stuff, hoping it works out, throwing stuff up against the wall. So those are the 3 things that I would highly recommend. And I truly think that just by understanding these 3 things in a very deep way, it can save you years and maybe even a lifetime of unprofitability.